time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does on a Thursday, and great to have you with us. Wherever you're watching in the U.S., Canada, anywhere in the world on YouTube or Spotify. A lot of ways to take in this show. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes, including a visit from Bill Bender, our college football insider from the Sporting News. Thoughts with him on this interesting story emerging out of the University of Oklahoma and where it goes from here, if it goes anywhere from here. We'll get into that with him. We'll also talk to our good friend David Aardsma coming up in about 10 minutes, a few segments of baseball with him, as we do every Thursday on this show. But we start things out in the NFL, and Sam Yarnell is here, looking particularly maroon today. Is that maroon? Maroonish? Something like that? Yeah? Can we
I
go?
would say, I think the camera might mess it up a little.
Yeah.
It's just Nationals red. I just got my Washington Nationals garb on, representing my last place baseball team.
By the way, Joe Ryan had one of the coolest gloves. It was this bright red glove he was pitching with against the Yankees last night. I was like, I want that glove. I don't even play baseball anymore, and I just want that glove. That's how cool it looked. Let's start out in the NFL, Sam. Shedeur Sanders, from the toast of the town to an oblique injury that looks like it's going to keep him out of this weekend's game. And you have to wonder, again, with that quarterback room being as crowded as it is, unfortunately for Shedeur Sanders, this is a big setback.
Yes, this is the end. This is
come on.
This is the graceful, all right, we gave you your shot. You had your time to show on tape what you can do against 3s and 4s. So you can potentially be on another team's practice squad at some point, maybe. Or maybe it'll look good for, the CFL or the XFL or wherever Shedeur's next step may be. But to me, it's oblique injury. You're going to tell me that this quarterback all of a sudden has a baseball injury? No, I don't buy it. It seems like it is Dillon Gabriel is finally healthy again. Let's get him back into practice, because now we only have 2 preseason games to actually figure out who our quarterback is going to be, and we can't throw Joe Flacco out there in the preseason, so we got to see what we've got in Dillon Gabriel. Again, I think this will ultimately result in Shedeur being gracefully released from the Browns.
You think he's going to be released?
Yeah.
No,
not to
he's
say
not
that they
getting
won't bring him
released.
back on the practice squad, but I don't think he's going to be one of the 2 quarterbacks that they roster.
Man, that's hard to stomach. It's got to be really hard to stomach if you're Shedeur Sanders, and a lot of the people obviously supporting him. It's going to be. I am fascinated to see how they handle this from a PR standpoint.
I'll tell you this. The cycle that a player has to go through business-wise in the National Football League that Shedeur Sanders is currently experiencing is not what it was when his father went through it. Granted, his father was a different style of prospect, and they are completely different talent levels, and they're not comparable prospects.
Right.
But the business aspect of the NFL is objectively much different now than it was when Dion was playing. And I think part of what Shedeur Sanders has to prepare himself personally for as he ventures into these uncharted waters of struggling to make an NFL 53-man roster at the best is that's something that all the people in his corner can't prepare him for, because quite frankly, nobody in his corner has ever had to deal with that sort of situation. It's a very unique one. It's not an uncommon one, especially in the NFL in the 2020s, but it's one that Shedeur needs to prepare himself mentally, emotionally, and quite frankly, physically for.
Give me a thought on Micah Parsons and the way Jerry Jones continues to handle this situation, because first of all, we're happy for Jerry Jones that he's recovered from melanoma. That revelation that was made yesterday took a lot of people by surprise. All the best to him from a health standpoint. We wish nothing but good health for Jerry Jones. That said, this Micah Parsons situation now, and again, the wording and the way Jerry's talking about him, I wonder if Micah might push this past week 1, because when asked yesterday if there's a deadline to know whether Parsons will play on September 4th against the Eagles, Jerry Jones said, quote, "No, not at all. You don't have deadlines when you're playing under a contract." Jerry is playing Russian roulette with this situation right now, Sam, where he's, and somebody else said this. I don't remember who it was. One of the prominent NFL insiders said this, though. He's daring Micah Parsons to sit out right now. He really is.
So I'm so glad that you said that about Jerry Jones' health. Yes, we are incredibly thankful that everything worked out for him. I think it is incredible that Jerry Jones said yesterday that it was an experimental drug that he began a trial of that eventually saved his life. I think that speaks volumes to how amazing the medical community in this country is and how tremendously advanced our medical sciences are. And I think that is just so special, and something that people should really realize is how advanced all of the science around medicine is in the United States of America, and how fortunate we are to benefit from that, and quite frankly still have Jerry Jones to give us the crazy quotes that he gives us, including ones that have damaged his relationship with Micah Parsons unquestionably to me. And Jason, I'll take it one step farther than sitting out this season, because I do think it is now time to, and I know we did this with Dak Prescott last year, and it was a different situation, but we've got to start thinking about where Micah Parsons fits elsewhere in the NFL, because I think that realistically, while the Cowboys are clearly not interested in what is best for the franchise and doing that at all times, they may come to their senses at some point and realize we've done so much damage that we might as well just pick up whatever draft capital we can. And quite frankly, there are going to be people knocking down the door with offers for Micah Parsons. So I am ready to start exploring the idea of Micah Parsons beginning the season on a different NFL team. I think, to me, the holdout thing for Micah is just stupid, because he gets a year older in the middle of his prime. But yes. Right. If he doesn't play the season, he doesn't void the contract year, so he's still contracted under the Dallas Cowboys. A sit out to me doesn't really make sense, as much as him saying, "I'm out of here, guys. See ya. Trade me."
Well, he has asked for a trade. I mean, remember, that's how all this started, was him asking for a trade. It's just Jerry's basically pretending that was never said.
Right.
Which you can do when you're Jerry Jones, apparently. We're talking baseball with David Aardsma next. All right, we shift gears away from football to our favorite American pastime, at least on this show. And that's baseball. Who joins us every Thursday on the show? You named it. It's David Aardsma, former big league reliever, closer. Our guy.
Football's like full go now.
It is.
I love this type of year.
You doing fantasy? Are you doing fantasy football?
Oh, yeah, I've got 4 leagues. I'm full into it. I've got one that's got like all these crazy punishments, and like you have like rivalry week, and you have to come up with like punishments for rivalry week. It's great.
I wasn't invited into this fantasy football, any of these 4 fantasy football leagues. I feel unloved. I feel absolutely unloved. I'm just gonna go out and say it. Sitting here all by myself in Las Vegas, I feel very unloved. I haven't done a fantasy league in like 6 years, 7 years. So that's,
you're kind of busy.
A little bit. Let's talk baseball. I mean, hey, on the bright side for the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani pitched into the 5th inning. The bad news is they're not in first place anymore. Oh my God. On the panic meter 1 to 5, where are you on the Dodgers?
We know Padres were going to be really competitive all year. We knew they had a great team going into the season. We knew they were going to be competitive. It was going to be just how competitive with the ownership deal, everything with that. We didn't know if they're going to be big sellers at the deadline, and they weren't. So we knew they were going to have a great baseball team. And I went down there. We talked about this on the show for the July 4th weekend. It was an insane environment. I had never seen something like that, kind of like what I saw in Seattle last weekend. crazy environment, so much fun. But it's a great baseball team in San Diego. That's the thing. We're not giving them enough credit. We're trying to put the Dodgers on this pedestal that is the greatest team of all time before the season even started. We knew they had injury issues, especially on the pitching side, that was going to catch up. And this Padre team just keeps rolling. And that's the thing we're not getting enough credit for, is that this is a great baseball team down, whatever it is, 100 miles south, and we're not giving them enough credit.
I think it's interesting, David, when we look at the National League from kind of a bird's eye view. I think if you would have given me, of the 15 teams to guess in the National League on August 14th to be like the far and away best one, I'll take it a step further, far and away best team in baseball, and it's not particularly close right now. You could have given me 15 guesses. It would have probably taken me 10 to get to the Milwaukee Brewers. Nobody saw this coming. It's like they're just powered off of vibes and rainbows, and they're just going to go all the way to the World Series on that. What have you seen out of the Brewers recently that's powered them to a 6.5 game lead in the NL Central?
God, how crazy is that, right? Like, we're talking about this, and we're thinking about, and I was looking at this morning. This is the number that's kind of looking at me and kind of slapping me in the face. The Chicago Cubs, who we feel is like now they're 7.5 games back. They're out of this. They would be a game back behind Philly, a game back. They'd be tied with the Dodgers. Sorry, they'd be ahead of the Dodgers with almost the same record, different losses. They'd be leading almost any division except for this one, and they're not even close anymore. This Milwaukee Brewers team is incredible, right? 27 wins in the last 31 games, 12 in a row. Whatever it was 4 weeks ago.
Look at the run differential at plus 159.
And it's getting better. They scored 33 runs in the last 3 games. I mean, if you're going out averaging 11 runs a game, that's pretty easy as a pitching staff to be able to hold some leads and win some baseball games, let alone they have the second best ERA from all pitching staffs in baseball. They're doing everything. And Pat Murphy has this team going on in every perfect direction. They're hitting every right button. But what it is, too, is it's a great baseball team all around, and that offense is built around an entire offense. It's get them on, get them over, get them in, and you can hit a 2-run home run if you need to. They don't have that huge pop in the lineup like some other teams, but they're not relying on the pop. You got Yelich, who is somehow, I don't know where he's found this fountain of youth again, and they're hitting 23 home runs. This is a guy who I think hit 1 or 2 home runs a couple of years ago. What is happening here? But they're pitching through their teeth. They're pitching amazing. Their bullpen is good. It's not great. That's probably the only spot where I'm like, in the playoffs, that might come back to bite them. They're 14th in the league in the bullpen. And we do know in the playoffs, bullpen is the one thing you have to be great at. You don't even need to have a great starting pitching staff. You need a great bullpen. That's the only spot they might get caught. But still, that back end, when you're talking about McGill getting it done on the back end, I still don't want to face this team at all, because that energy up there in Milwaukee right now is, like you said, that vibes. It just seems like it hits different.
Cincinnati hanging around. I mean, 6 games over 500, still very much in the thick of this, wild card race, and the Mets are certainly helping in that factor, having lost 8 of their last 10, David. And you get the sense that early September series in Cincinnati between the Mets and the Reds, could be one of those tipping points in sort of where each of these teams wind up this season.
Yes, and that's what I love about this new playoff. This is one of the only things that I love as the landscapers are coming by right at my door. That's one of the only things I love about this, the new playoff or the new schedule, is that you are getting some of these matchups, which are nice. But again, it's just a handful of times. I'd rather have the division matchups when it really matters the most. But when you're getting those two teams at the end of the wild cards, getting to face each other that are out of the division, that's when it gets a lot of fun. And if I'm New York, I don't want to be facing those teams. I don't want to be facing the teams that are right on the cusp, but you're going to have to. And New York's not playing great baseball at all right now. I think they went into this thinking they were going to have this easy, and they're going to just roll into that last place in the playoffs or even win the division. And right now they're not playing great baseball. And one place I don't want to be going is on the road in Cincinnati, in beginning of September and having to face a team like the Reds. David,
in the last 45 seconds we have, you touched on it there. The Mets, 2 2-13 in their last 15 games. Death taxes and the Mets falling apart at the end of the summer. What have you seen out of this New York baseball team that had such high hopes going into the season?
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. It's not, and again, I gotta take some ownership here. The Yankees are absolutely falling apart, right? They're falling apart. This team's falling apart worse, but they're not doing it in the same way. They're just not playing. They're not scoring runs, and they're giving up too many runs. Where the Yankees seem like they're finding ways to lose every night with an error, a mental mess up. It's something that goes beyond just on the field and playing baseball. They're playing just horrible baseball. This team's just, it's lost their vibe. Everything that Milwaukee and San Diego have right now, they don't.
But they got Juan Soto. I don't understand. Juan Soto is supposed to fix everything.
And Soto's still playing good baseball too, right? And Soto's getting his Soto's doing enough for himself.
Yeah.
It's just this team can't put together those runs, can't step on throats, and isn't pitching well enough to withstand it.
We got more with David Aardsma. Don't go anywhere. More baseball on Sports Wrap. All right, let's take it to segment 3 on the show. And another segment with David Aardsma, who's hanging out with us. Talk Major League Baseball. Coming up in 10 minutes, by the way. In our third and final segment with David, I want to talk to him about his weekend in Seattle because the pictures were really cool. Even though I felt left out, I didn't get my invite to Seattle. Mutual friend of ours got an invite to Seattle. Got to hang out with Ichiro, photobombed by Randy Johnson. Me?
How about that?
No, I just sat here. Actually, I was in Connecticut. I was in New York, so I couldn't go anyway. I was at my mom's 80th birthday. Way more fun than going to Seattle and hanging out at a Hall of Fame and weekend with Ichiro, of course. Talk to me about bullpens by this time of the year. You know, it obviously it depends on the team that we're talking about, David. Some are overused, some are underused. More are probably overused than underused. As a guy that's, been in that position at this stage of the season, when you're just trying to get through the finish line, potentially to the postseason, but get through the finish line, and you've logged a lot of miles and a lot of innings, maybe the season's still in play, maybe it isn't. The mentality of a reliever just trying to get through that tape.
Yes, you are probably, definitely, for sure, 100% overused. This is, especially this day and age, you are logging your innings. I think they manage everybody except for the bullpens well, and because they just write everybody's name in the bullpen, they actually have to do work. It's a little easier now. Obviously, it's a lot easier. It's all run like the American League, where there's no DH. You're not worried about, the starting pitcher coming up in the 5th inning and it's a 5-4 ball games and you might have to make a move then. At least the starting pitcher controls whether they're coming out of the ball game or not, which is a lot more comfortable if you're looking at it as a bullpen guy. So you can at least blame the starting pitcher if they don't make it to the 6th inning instead of just the coach making a tough move. But in August, especially mid-August, the heat of the year, the playoff line where you're getting closer and closer. You see that line coming, or that you see the line further and further away because you're never even going to get there. August is the month that is the toughest, without a doubt, especially as a bullpen. This is when you make or break your team. You have to be able to come together as a team and finish ball games. If you got that lead, you have to finish it. It matters more now than ever. I'm going to say it actually matters more now than in September, because September, everybody gets that second wind. Everybody feels good. The team is figuring out exactly what their bullpen's going to look like for the playoffs. They might be bringing somebody up, a young guy up, and give him a shot to maybe even make a team before the playoffs. But August is when nobody wants to be playing baseball. It's tough. It's hot. You don't want to be out there. So as a bullpen, you have to step it up. And whether you're overused or not, sorry, like I said last week, it's tough, man. Put your big boy pants on and get over it, because that's your job. And this is what you do. There is no, I don't feel bad for anybody in the bullpen getting overused and stuff, but you just have to man up every single day. And it's tough. It is what it is, and you deal with it.
I think one of the best things I ever heard from a professional baseball player was like 10 years ago at this point. I heard Max Scherzer once say August is what he calls the month of hate. September's the month of great, but August is the month of hate because you just hate everybody that you're around and you've been with them for so long. Someone who hasn't hated August, though, David, Jacob Marcy, this rookie who's come up for the Marlins, is absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. 7 RBIs in a multi-homer game on Wednesday night for Miami. My question for you is, what's a rookie that you can remember facing early on in their career who was prolific, not necessarily throughout their career, but at the time you faced them? And how do you go about facing a guy who you don't necessarily have a ton of intel on other than this guy's hitting everything really hard right now?
Now, that's a great question. That's something that I've never been asked before. There's not too many questions I haven't been asked. That's a good one. You know, the player that I saw come up and just immediately make an impact that I had never seen like that was Evan Longoria. Evan Longoria in the minor leagues, he signed a big league contract before he comes up to even gets his call up to the big leagues, which I still haven't seen, I don't think, since. And then he gets his call up, and it was immediately day one impact, changed that Rays team. They had a very good team. This was 2008. They had a very good team already, and he hit that ground running like he was a 10-year veteran. He looked different. The game was slow to him. And when you have a player like that, you know they're dangerous. So generally as a pitcher, especially as a hard throwing, reliever, down and away. Just start them down and away. Every rookie comes up down and away, and you kind of test them and you see where the holes are at. If they can handle down and away, then you give them in. Then if you can't handle in, you start throwing them sliders, curveballs, those type of things. Really simple, and you start trying to find holes. Nowadays, a little bit different with the amount of data and tech we still have in the minor leagues, but you still just try to find their holes. Evan was one of those guys. Immediately, you just saw them make an impact. So you had to treat them like a 5-year veteran, 10-year veteran right out of the gate, which makes it tough because you don't even quite know where their holes are at. You don't know what they can't hit. You just saw them in College World Series or whatever it was a couple months ago, and you're trying to figure this out. But Evan Longoria for sure. And again, especially on defense, he was so good for that Rays team and getting them basically to the World Series. Another guy, too, I didn't face him, but David Price that same year. David Price come in, and it was just not just dominant, confidently dominant, where this was going to last a long time, and like it shows, it did.
Last one before we wrap up the segment. Cleveland basically dumped at the trade deadline, and there they are right now, just basically tied with the Yankees in the loss column, in what feels like a 4-team race right now for that. For those 3 AL wild card spots. What do you make of Cleveland right now?
What I make of this is a team that might be playing a lot better than what they actually are. Might be catching them on a really good run while the other teams around them, the Yankees, are on a really horrible run, right? Boston's playing fine. They're playing, but they're not playing like they want to win, the World Series. They're playing good baseball, not great baseball. 5 in the last 10, but the Yankees are just a bad baseball team right now. I still believe in them. I still think they're going to be dangerous. I don't want to face this team in a 3-game, 5-game, even 7-game series at all. I don't want anything to do with the Yankees, especially having to go to Yankee Stadium. But Cleveland's just playing good enough baseball. And again, just because they sold, they didn't really even sell. They got rid of a couple guys. They got rid of Bieber, and they got rid of some guys in the bullpen that were getting suspended. That's guys. Really what they. So they just did. They didn't really get rid of everybody. They just a couple pieces, and Bieber wasn't really doing anything.
We've got more with David Aardsma. He had a busy weekend in Seattle, honoring Ichiro. We'll talk about it next. All right, coming up in 10 minutes, Bill Bender, college football insider, sporting news. Talk to him about a couple of big stories revolving around that sport. David Aardsma, who's your college football team? Is it Rice? Because, I'm sorry if it is, but...
No, at Penn State.
Really?
I went to Penn State my freshman year, so I became a Nittany Lion, love them, and they're better than
Rice. Let's that
does make it a little easier.
Let's be honest. You had a really cool weekend that I was living vicariously through you while I was off in Connecticut spending time with family. Joy. You were off in Seattle at Ichiro's number retirement ceremony that they had up there at Safeco, or Safeco, T-Mobile. God, Safeco. Where
He
am
did
I?
it. He said it.
I said Safeco. Jeez Louise. Hasn't been Safeco in
It's
forever.
a Safeco to your heart. It's fine.
Welcome back, folks. We're here live in 2008.
I'll be all right. Talk about sort of the emotions and what it was like being a part of, and how. And I don't mean to ask this in a disrespectful way, but I have to ask: how are you, of the select people invited to this? How are you one of those? No, because a lot of people might wonder this. Because
I was wondering too.
Yeah, no, seriously, and I don't ask this in a disrespectful way. Sam's trying to make it sound like I am, but I'm not. I'm asking the obvious question that's going through people's minds: is how is David Aardsma part of this ceremony?
So I was locker mates of Ichiro, so we were lockers were right next to each other for the
Stop
3
trying to
years.
start trouble, Sam.
Yeah, Sam.
I just thought it was funny. I just laughed. All I did was laugh. Sue a guy for laughing.
I will say this: when you're walking into a room and you've got Felix Hernandez there, Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez,
who doesn't belong and
Bones,
why? Exactly.
Junior, Alvin Davis, and
Thank
then
you.
Like one
And
of
the
these.
second hardest throwing right-hander of the 2000 high school graduating class.
Yes. One of these things is not quite like the other, and it's not the bald head Jay Buhner. It's me. There, without a doubt. I was definitely on the outside looking in a little bit on as far as like who was there. But I did this. This is early on, very early on. I was emailing the Mariners saying, like, I felt really close to him. He changed my career. I was incredible. We were very close. We played the 3 years with the Mariners together, and he went to the Yankees in spring training, and I was there with the Yankees. And so we always had a very close bond. We talked every day, and I said, hey, like this, you know what? I'd love to be there. I'm going to Seattle for this thing, no matter what. I'd love to just be a part of it and whatever from there, but just be able to hang out. And they treated me like a king.
That's
and it
great.
was incredible. They treated me great. It also helps that when you're stay pretty close with Griffey, that doesn't hurt. And he's like, hey, let's go. Like, you're involved in everything. But it was a special moment, obviously being on the field and getting, like they said my name to the crowd that I was there, and that's pretty special to me. And the crowd had a good cheer, not quite as loud as Felix or Griffey or some of those other guys, but it was pretty special. And you remember how amazing those Mariners fans are, and how wonderful it was. I had a couple great years there. Still, I think number 4 on the all-time saves list for the Mariners, something like that. Only pitcher in history to have 69 saves. So there it is. But I loved every moment. And you know what? The thing about it, Ichiro is an incredible baseball player. Everything he did was amazing, and he deserves that honor, number 51. And what's crazy is they're going to honor Randy Johnson next year, retire his 51, which is fun, which is going to be interesting. Especially
You getting an invite to that one too, or you're in?
Probably not. I think just getting the photo bomb from Randy Johnson is enough. I don't know if he even knew who I was, but he photobombed me with Griffey, which is always great. But the crowd for the game, every Hall of Fame number of retirements going to be great, going to be sold out. I have never seen the energy like that at that ballpark. Now, you play the Yankees, you play the Blue Jays. Those are always sold out games, big energy games, but it's a weird energy because it's a road energy. They're actually cheering on the Blue Jays. They're cheering on the Yankees. This was electric. This was exciting. This was playoff baseball in the middle of August, and they're on their feet on every single pitch, every walk, every strikeout. It is loud, and there's this hum, right? When it gets when there's a great crowd, there's a hum, and I've never felt that there as a player. Never felt that besides the Yankee and Blue Jay games, but this was just pure energy for the Mariners, and it was electric. I loved it.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I think those are like the moments in baseball that we think of that make the sport what it is. David, of your time in Seattle, I guess, just can you share with us one favorite Ichiro memory that you have of those 3 years that you talked to him and saw him every day?
You got a minute. Go.
One, Ichiro's everyday preparation and work. I'd never seen that. Never seen it from another player in baseball. It doesn't matter who it is. I've been
Even with
so
Bonds?
many Hall of Famers.
Even with Bonds?
Bonds had his own routines. A lot of times going to sleep was his routine, and which is great because he actually said it calmed his mind, calmed his eyes, so he could focus. Ichiro's prep every single day, you could not even mess with it either. Like he was respectful about it. But when he faced Mariano Rivera and hit the walk-off 2-run home run against Mariano Rivera, and then comes around the bases, and I gotta say this, and did the
chop,
sign
the chop
as he hit home plate was one of the most special things. And they show the highlight all the time, and they show him doing it, and they send it out on a Christmas card, and the whole, it's so fun to watch. And he has such a great sense of humor that doesn't come out. It came out in the Hall of Fame speech. But he's got this incredible sense of humor, and you saw it every day as a player, and that was one of the special things.
David Aardsma, former big league reliever, our closer, invitee to the Ichiro ceremony. I'm jealous. I'm not going to lie. We'll see you next week.
Oh, thank you.
Odds and Ends wraps things up in 10 minutes. What was going on between the Mercury and the sun? Sun and sky? I don't know. There's some crazy fracas in a WNBA game. We'll get to it. Also, something I didn't get to earlier in the week that I want to give some love to as well. It's this Thursday edition of the show, and I decided I wanted to bring in this guy. Bill Bender does a great job at the Sporting News on college football. And we were just joking off the air about this Michigan story because there's something coming. We don't know what, but we know something's coming, Bill. There's going to be some sort of penalty against this team. And hey, let's do it 2 weeks before the season starts.
Yeah, somebody's going to be disappointed when they do leak. Obviously, Pete Thamel reported today that the findings will be made public Friday. I would anticipate it gets leaked before Friday morning, so we all know what happens. And, I think for me, I'm going to be glad it's over. I'm sick of talking about Connor Stallions, about sign stealing, about the show cause. And, at the end of the day, Connor Stallions won't coach college football again. Jim Harbaugh probably won't coach college football again.
Wow.
Sharon Moore will get a suspension. I think worst case for Michigan would be like a bull ban for a year, but I don't see that happening.
Wow. Okay. So there's some of the potential outcomes of that as it goes. Let's talk about this interesting story that sort of emerged this week about John Mateer from Oklahoma. And, first there were the screenshots that came out of his Venmo, which basically said sports gambling as a payment to somebody. And then he came out, yesterday or the day before, he comes out on Tuesday and says, no, it was just an inside joke. Does the story basically end there? Because my argument 2 days ago, even before he said that, this was an inside joke sort of thing, I thought they were always going to have a hard time prosecuting this sort of case unless there's a smoking gun or somebody out there that can prove otherwise that he was betting on sports. This is just unsavory, but not necessarily going to rise to the level of punishment.
It might. I mean, it's not smart at minimum to put that on your Venmo transactions, because we're always looking in it for an excuse to investigate athletes. I would tread lightly, though, because you saw what happened with the Iowa State players and with the Iowa players, and they have to take a hard line on gambling, as much of a hard line as they can, but it still looks hypocritical because obviously we're in the betting apps are very active on my Saturday afternoons on those commercials, aren't they? So
yes, they are.
Yeah, one thing they're talking about in Ohio is the player props bets, that they're trying to, I believe, outlaw, like, will Jeremiah Smith score a touchdown today? And I can see some logic in that, but people are going to do it anyway.
Yeah, and you could virtually bet on almost every play nowadays and what's going to happen. I mean, that's essentially where we are. I was kind of surprised, and you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, because I was reading up on this morning as I was preparing for the show. The college football, the NCAA, football rules committee, and the fact that they put out. Now, are you telling me, and I want to make sure I'm reading it right, that they literally put out the rule changes for the season 2 weeks before the season starts, or were teams already aware of this and it just became official a couple of weeks before the season starts? Because it seems crazy to me that you wouldn't give teams time to adjust or whatever it is to whatever changes you're making.
Preparing for an unsportsmanlike penalty on a fumble, potentially. How do you recover a fumble now? I can tell you right now, when I played in high school, recovering a fumble was terrifying. And maybe they're trying to make that less terrifying because of, you always hear the stories about what goes on under a pile. Yeah, they do. So I think that is interesting, though, because how you do in fall camp want to prepare for these rule changes, especially if it has to do with time management or something on the field or coaching a technique, especially on that defensive side where it's become virtually impossible in some ways to play defense in college football between targeting and some of the other things. Now you can't even recover a fumble properly.
Bill, how do you enforce faking injuries, though? That is such a slippery slope in an age of player safety being so important. What's going to happen the first time somebody gets flagged for faking an injury and then we find out they weren't faking an injury?
Yeah, what if they really did have what if they really did have a cramp in 100-degree weather at the swamp?
Yeah.
And they had to go down in the middle of a drive. I mean, yeah, that's going to be tough to legislate. And, I think you kind of know when they do fake, you kind of do, but there inevitably are going to be a couple this year where it's going to be a controversy, a needless controversy. I'd never see this happen in the NFL, right? Like, have you ever heard of an NFL player faking an injury? I'm sure it's happened at some point, but you never see that within the confines of the professional game. We shouldn't see it in the college game.
In the last minute here, in that Notre Dame-Miami matchup that rounds out the month in the real opening week of the college football season, who loses the most? Who is it more crippling for in a week one loss scenario there?
I think Notre Dame, because then they have to wait a week and play Texas A&M. And you could talk about, what if Notre Dame goes 0-2? Then you're out of sight, out of mind for the rest of the year, essentially, against a tough schedule that includes Boise State and Arkansas and USC. But their two toughest games of the year are their first two games in Miami and Texas A&M. So I do think it's important for them. Obviously, going on right now in camp, there's a little bit of a quarterback controversy with Kenny Mitchell and CJ Carr. They're going to need to pick one because on the other side, we know Miami's got Carson Beck out there. That's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to seeing what Carson Beck looks like in a Miami uniform as well. Bill Bender does a great job with the sporting news on college football. Just a quick hit with him. We want to let him know we haven't forgotten him as we get ready for the start of college football season. Hey, have fun sitting there hitting refresh on the NCAA page today.
I will. Thanks so much for having me on. Can't wait for the season to start.
Oh, you and me both, man. Bill Bender, we're coming back. Lots more to do. Odds and ends next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. A reminder, Friday's show, always a big one. Robert Littal, Black Sports Online founder, will hang out with us. Get some thoughts with him on the top stories of the week. Tino Patino will be here as well. Preview this weekend's NASCAR action. Shane Van Gisbergen won again. Guy has 4 wins this year, and none of them are on ovals. It just boggles the mind. He's a one-trick pony, man. Anyway, we'll talk about all that on tomorrow's show, plus some football and baseball, I am sure. A couple of reminders before we go. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. That includes Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can listen to this show. In addition, you can watch this show on over 300 affiliates around the U.S. and Canada, but you can also watch the show over on Spotify. Every day, every afternoon, the show is uploaded to Spotify. and you can watch it there commercial free. You can also watch it on our YouTube channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go and do it. It's free. It helps us out. We'd love to have you all there. Commercial free, the show available there, as I mentioned, and also Sports Wrap Shorts. Whenever there's breaking news, we jump in onto YouTube with Sports Wrap Shorts and we have you covered for anything that is breaking along those lines. Again, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Subscribe today. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends. The Chicago Sky and Connecticut Sun. Neither team is going to the playoffs. Spoiler alert. The Sun have been the worst in the league. In fact, it's their worst season ever in the WNBA, as the team basically tanked this year. And in all likelihood, they're moving to Boston, it looks like, in a couple of years anyway, which is going to be the end of women's professional basketball in the state of Connecticut, which is a real shame, quite honestly, because that state has supported, and those fans have supported that team a lot over the years. It was one of the real success stories of the WNBA. Unfortunately, the tribe at Mohegan Sun and the owners of the team, the current owners that are about to sell the team, they didn't want to put money into a practice facility, and you get a big group from Boston that comes in and says, we will, and they're going to wind up moving to Boston. Anyways, more on that another time. I want to just talk about this game last night. The Connecticut Sun beat the Chicago Sky. There was a brawl of sorts. You'll see a little bit of it here. Because it was hard to find footage of it, apparently. There wasn't a lot of video clips out there. But the two teams got into it last night. There it is. You can see them kind of brawling down there on the floor. And it got a little chippy for sure. But I saw a funny note after the game. We'll sit there and watch them going at it and yelling profanities at each other. But I gotta say, I saw a stat pop up today that said I think the Chicago Sky without Angel Reese in the lineup are like 1-7 or 1-8. And by saying that, they're saying, see how badly the Chicago Sky need Angel Reese? And all I could sit there and laugh to myself and say was, they were 7-16 with her. It's not like they were some great shakes with Angel Reese on the court. The team was 7-16 with Angel Reese on the floor. They're 1-8 without her. They suck with her. They suck without her. I know that's not a popular thing to say, but it's the truth. They aren't good with her. They aren't good without her. Let's not make it sound like Angel Reese is the reason why the Chicago Sky aren't a good basketball team this year. They weren't good with her. Odds and ends. Something a little happier to discuss. Let your blood pressure go down. That smile. That Venus Williams smile. At 40 years old. Venus Williams, and I wanted to cover this earlier in the week. We didn't have a lot of time on the show, but I want to make sure to give it a couple of minutes here before we say goodbye. Venus Williams has a wild card entry into the U.S. Open. Bravo to the U.S. Open. Does she have any chance of winning the tournament? Absolutely not. Could there be some younger player that you've never heard of from some other country or even from the U.S. that could have taken that spot and maybe won a match? Maybe. But you know what? I'm going to watch because Venus Williams is playing. See, and that's the sign of tennis getting it to some degree. Venus probably has no shot at the age of 40 of winning. Could she win a match or two and give fans something to go crazy about and make people's eyeballs come to that tournament, and as a result, maybe watch some matches they wouldn't typically watch that don't include, Alcaraz or Sinner or Djokovic or some of the other great women that are playing, whether it's Naomi Osaka. To me, it's a great move by the United States Tennis Association and the folks at the U.S. Open to extend an invite to Venus Williams. She's also going to be playing in doubles, I believe, or mixed doubles. So you're going to have a couple opportunities to watch Venus Williams. And we always like to think it's kind of the farewell tour, but at 40, she still looks so physically imposing out there at times that who knows? She might play till she's 50 for all we know. Who will retire first, LeBron or Venus Williams? I'm all about that. Is there a bet somewhere we can do on that? Who's going to retire first, LeBron or Venus Williams? I mean, Venus doesn't have to play as much as LeBron does. But Venus doing what she's doing at her age against people in some cases young enough to be her daughter, it's pretty astounding. We got to go. Thanks to Sam Yarnell, David Aardsma, Bill Bender. We'll see you all back here tomorrow.